This is Daily Faith Builder number 69. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Daily Faith Builder. I hope you are well on this Thursday morning. We are this week looking at the spiritual disciplines of abstinence. In other words, the disciplines that we see that help us move towards godliness by the discipline of abstaining from different things. We've talked about fasting, solitude, silence, these kind of things to tune us into God, to help us to grow in godliness, to be like Jesus. I want to talk this morning about a discipline that is very rarely talked about, especially in our Western affluent culture, the discipline of frugality. This is a tough one. This is a real tough one for me, and I'm going to share a personal story here in just a minute. But I have been reading from The Spirit of the Disciplines. This is Dallas Willard, fantastic book. I'd highly recommend it. This is what he has to say about frugality. He says, we turn now to some disciplines of abstinence that may for some not be as basic to the process of full redemption as solitude, silence, and fasting are, but they are still a very great importance, since they allow us to come to grips with behavioral tendencies that can destroy us or at least render us ineffective in our service to Christ, and especially in our growing faith and our maturity. In frugality, we abstain from using money or goods at our disposal in ways that merely gratify our desires or our hunger for status, glamour, and luxury. Practicing frugality means we stay within the bounds of what general good judgment would designate as necessary for the kind of life to which God would have us lead. Wow. I think in our consumer culture, boy, it's hard for us to think this way, especially being in the grips of consumerism and everything else. We look back in history and we see that, again, we're the most affluent society that's ever lived on the face of the earth. And so, boy, this is a discipline that we have to start with. And I think it's really critical to help us break the bonds of consumerism and really kind of come in touch with things. Obviously, this is one of the important reasons for mission trips, getting away for a short-term mission trip, another country to live for a while among those who have a lot less, among the poor, to really get kind of a wake-up call right in our own lives. He goes on, he says this, the spiritually wise person has always known that frivolous consumption corrupts the soul away from trust. Let me read this again. The spiritually wise person has always known that frivolous consumption corrupts the soul away from trust in, worship of, and service to God, and injures our neighbors as well. Powerful, right, statement to think about. But we want to talk about the idea of frugality as a spiritual discipline, to practice it specifically to bring us back in line, to break off the chains of consumerism, to really wake up our hearts spiritually in a godly way. We see it modeled in the scripture by Jesus and the others. And we are all more in the grips of consumerism than we would ever realize, and everything that goes with that. So this is a real critical discipline in many ways. In our current world, a large part of the freedom that comes from frugality is freedom from the spiritual bondage caused by financial debt. We know that financial debt on a personal level is a huge bondage. We see Romans 13. Paul says this to us, let no debt remain outstanding except continuing debt to love one another. In other words, we see all through the scripture, we're to be free from the monetary bonds of debt and overspending and consumerism. Frugality is a wonderful spiritual discipline, right, that we can practice that gets us there. So the question is how do we begin with this thing? And so Michelle and I, this is a couple of years ago, but we were thinking, we might have been reading this book at the time, and we were on our way to visit one of our daughters in school and college, and we thought, okay, we're going to, instead of staying in the hotel we normally stay in, let's stay in a cheap hotel, and let's practice frugality, and let's just kind of share in that experience. And wow, we stayed in this cheap hotel. I think it was like $45 a night or something. The numbers, the room numbers were actually put on with a Sharpie marker on a cement wall. We drove in and parked, and immediately were hit with a sense of, these are not our people. This is not our, the feelings that we welled up. It was so bad that in the room, Michelle had me move our dresser in front of the door. The noises, everything else. It was the sheets. I mean, the experience was, we had, I don't know if we slept very much, but boy, did it spark amazing conversation with us about what we're used to. And it got us in touch with, I think, about how much of the world, how they live, what they experience. So just one fun example, but I think there's many other ways. Obviously, budget issues, going after being in debt issues. This is an important spiritual discipline. I hope that blesses you, challenges us all. Have a wonderful day.